If you walk into the lobby of Orion Tower and just, count the floors on the directory, you're going to find exactly 12.
Right.
But if you ask the survivors of the catastrophic 2004 fire, they will tell you, without any hesitation, that the building actually has 13 floors.
Yeah, they're absolutely adamant about it.
They really are.
Yeah.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring what happens when a physical environment is just so saturated with tragedy that it physically breaks the laws of architecture to accommodate a history that absolutely refuses to stay buried.
It's such a heavy topic.
It is. We're looking at this fascinating source document called the Overtime Shift on Floor 13. And our mission today is to really dissect the mechanics of this terrifying spatial anomaly and, understand what it ultimately reveals about the darkest corners of corporate compliance.
It is a phenomenal text to unpack, honestly, mostly because it forces you, the listener, to reconsider how we view the spaces we work in every single day.
Oh, totally.
Because we aren't just dealing with, a traditional ghost story here, right? Where a spirit is just haunting a hallway. We're analyzing an environment that has effectively quarantined its own trauma.
Right, like the building itself is traumatized.
Exactly. The architecture itself is trapped in this horrific feedback loop, enforcing a lethal status quo on anyone who just, accidentally crosses its threshold.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get to the actual physics-breaking reality of Floor 13, we really have to look at the perfectly mundane trap that caught our protagonist, Imran Sheikh.
Yes, the setup is so important.
It really is, because it's deeply grounded in modern reality.
Yeah.
I mean, Imran isn't some urban explorer looking for ghosts, right?
No, not at all.
He's just a 20-year-old delivery worker doing the late-night gig economy hustle. It's pouring rain, it's 11:47 p.m., and he's literally just trying to make rent by delivering overpriced food to Sanep Solutions.
Which is on floor 10.
Right, floor 10. And to do that, he has to walk into a partially abandoned, financially ruined Orion Tower.
Which, is a space practically vibrating with red flags.
Major red flags.
The source notes the building's history of severe safety violations, the shuttered upper floors, and all these urban legends of computers just booting up by themselves at midnight.
Right, like the environment's practically screaming at him to turn around and leave.
It really is. But the modern gig economy operates on this mechanism of enforced desperation. Imran's app tells him to complete the delivery, and the threat of omission just completely outweighs the primal instinct that's telling him, this building is dangerous.
That's exactly the tension that makes the beginning so effective for me. Any normal person sees this eerie, elderly security guard staring at static on old CCTV monitors in this freezing cold marble lobby, and they leave.
Yeah, you just walk out.
Right. But when Imran mentions floor 10, the guard gets this really strange look, asks if they are, quote, still ordering food, and directs him to the ancient left elevator.
And Imran just ignores all of the weirdness.
Because he needs the money. He just needs to get paid. So he gets into this dim, wood-paneled elevator, presses 10, and then the lights flicker. The car jerks violently, and it literally skips floor 10 entirely and drops him onto the impossible floor 13.
The floor that officially doesn't exist.
Exactly. But, how does that actually work? If the building is just a physical structure, how does a standard elevator button act as a gateway to a hidden floor?
Well, think of the building like a corrupted computer hard drive.
Yeah.
When a massive file becomes too corrupted to read, but it's, too deeply embedded in the operating system to safely delete, the system doesn't just leave it out in the open.
Right, it isolates it.
Exactly. It cordons it off in a hidden quarantine directory. Orion Tower essentially did that to physical space. The sheer density of the horror that occurred in 2004 created an actual spatial corruption.
Wow.
Yeah, management tried to, delete the file by remodeling and renumbering the floors, but the trauma was just too embedded. So the reality of the building quarantined floor 13.
That makes so much sense.
Right. That left elevator isn't just a mechanical lift. It is a glitch in the directory. It is the backdoor access to the corrupted file.
But wait, if it's a quarantine, that kind of implies the system locked it away for the safety of the rest of the building?
Sure.
But this feels much more like an active trap to me. Why does the elevator pull Imran in? Is the building, actively hunting him because he's vulnerable? Or is that left elevator always just a loaded gun waiting for anyone to press the wrong button?
What's fascinating here is that the text suggests it's a matter of frequency, not necessarily malicious hunting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't read the anomaly as a predator singling out Imran. Rather, his specific state of mind makes him the perfect conduit to trigger the mechanism.
Because he's exhausted.
Exactly. He is exhausted, he is working past midnight, he's entirely subjugated to a system that demands his labor at the expense of his own well-being. He is essentially broadcasting on the exact same frequency as the trauma trapped on floor 13.
For frequency of exploitation.
Exactly, the frequency of the overtime shift. That shared state of desperate compliance bridges the gap between the rational modern world and this quarantined pocket of history.
Which brings us to the visual shock of what actually happens when those elevator doors open. Because it's not just a spatial shift, right? It is a massive temporal displacement.
Yeah, he's stepping into another decade entirely.
He really is. Imran is suddenly staring at a massive office space that is completely frozen 22 years in the past. It's August 17, 2004.
The details here are so visceral.
They are. You have these flickering fluorescent lights, dusty, bulky CRT monitors glowing with bright green code, massive humming copy machines. It is fully occupied.
But the occupants are not normal.
No, the employees are terrifying. They have this pale, wax-like skin, solid black voids where their eyes should be, and they're all wearing these loose-fitting early 2000s corporate clothes.
And the silence.
Yes, they are typing endlessly in absolute dead silence. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Stepping onto this floor is like walking into a massive, meticulously curated museum diorama.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks. I mean, the aesthetics of the Y2K era office are perfect, but the mannequins are alive. And there's just this oppressive wrongness to all of it.
Yeah, the diorama analogy really highlights the artificial static nature of the scene. It's like a frozen moment. But if you look closely at the specific details provided in the source, the illusion of a pristine recording actually breaks down.
Right, it's not a perfect loop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scattered on the desks amidst the dusty paperwork, there are these family photographs. And the crucial detail is that the edges of these photographs are slightly burned.
Right, even though the fire hasn't actually happened yet in the loop.
Exactly. This raises an important question about the physics of a temporal echo. A haunting like this isn't just a flawless video recording replaying on a screen, you know?
Right, it's more tangible than that.
It is a physical manifestation of a psychological wound. The event horizon of the disaster is just so massive, and the agony of it is so dense that it exerts a gravitational pull on time itself.
Oh, wow. So the end of their story is contaminating the middle of it.
Precisely. The burned edges of the photos are a subtle, horrific signal to you, the listener, that the environment is permanently scarred by the impending doom. Time isn't linear here. The trauma is bleeding backward.
And the stability of that silent, eerie 2004 diorama does not hold for long. We shift pretty quickly from observing a creepy time capsule to witnessing the actual brutal mechanics of their doom.
Yeah, the catalyst is just chilling.
It is, because the catalyst isn't a demon or a monster. It's a distorted, static-filled voice over the office intercom. It just crackles to life and announces, "Please remain at your workstations. Evacuation is unnecessary."
The literal voice of middle management.
Yes.
It's the absolute worst possible directive in an emergency, delivered with complete, chilling bureaucratic detachment.
And then Imran smells smoke.
Yeah.
The reality of the 2004 catastrophe unfolds right in front of him. The workers begin to literally burn alive while sitting in their chairs.
It's so hard to read.
The source describes it so viscerally. Their skin darkens and curls like burning paper. Their faces split open to reveal blackened, charred flesh underneath. And black ash is literally spilling out of their cracked fingers as they hit the keyboards.
But no one screams.
No. No one screams. No one runs for the stairs. They just keep typing. And the intercom comes back on stating, "Fire on floor 13 has been contained. Productivity must continue."
It's deeply unsettling.
To me, the fire isn't even the scariest part of this source material. It's the middle management intercom literally telling people to burn quietly so they don't interrupt workflow.
Right.
Like, is the haunting punishing the workers, or is it a permanent loop of their ultimate exploitation? What is the psychological mechanism here? Why do they stay in the chairs while they're turning into ash?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. The true horror of this text is not supernatural.
Right.
The melting faces and the black eyes are merely the medium through which the mundane horror is expressed. The true terror is the absolute triumph of corporate conditioning over the biological imperative to survive.
The biological instinct is just gone.
Completely erased. We are looking at the extreme, fatal end of systemic exploitation. These workers were so deeply conditioned to prioritize the shift, to just blindly obey the voice of the company, that they overrode their own self-preservation.
It's sickening. The fire isn't the villain here. The policy is.
And that is the core tragedy of Floor 13. The haunting isn't some kind of purgatory devised by a cosmic force to punish them. It is the ultimate, inescapable realization of their exploitation.
Wow.
They died at their desks, completely subjugated to the company's demands. Therefore, the psychic imprint they left behind is one of eternal subjugation. They are caught in a permanent loop of their own absolute compliance.
The company demanded their lives.
Yeah, and the anomaly ensures they continue paying that debt forever.
But the text doesn't let them stay passively compliant, does it?
Ah.
The strict adherence to the loop breaks down, and the haunting suddenly shifts into an active, aggressive threat aimed directly at Imran.
The illusion drops.
Violently. The illusion of the pristine, green-coated office just violently shatters. The lights flicker and the veil drops. For a split second, Imran sees the true reality of the space.
And it's horrific.
He sees charred corpses fused to the chairs, collapsed ceiling panels, soot-blackened walls.
The spatial quarantine can basically no longer maintain the fiction of productivity.
Right.
The sheer weight of the reality just forces its way to the surface.
And when that veil drops, the workers finally stop typing. They turn those solid black eyes on Imran, and they speak without moving their mouths. "You shouldn't be here. We missed the exit."
It's so creepy.
And suddenly, a phone starts ringing endlessly. And in perfect, terrifying unison, with this deafening screech of office chairs, every single worker stands up.
The auditory details there are incredible.
Yes. They start chasing Imran through the cubicles under flashing red emergency lights, and the air just fills with the trapped, echoing screams of hundreds of people burning alive. Why the sudden shift? Why do they break their conditioning to go after him?
Well, because Imran's presence is an anomaly within the anomaly.
Oh, I see.
His intrusion breaks the closed loop. When the illusion drops, the environment shifts from a suppressed, silent trauma to an active, hostile eruption of grief and agony.
So they aren't pretending anymore.
Exactly. They are no longer acting as the perfect employees of 2004. They are suddenly manifesting the raw, unfiltered reality of their death. The sensory overload, the flashing lights, the screaming, the screeching chairs is the literal sound of a structural breakdown.
Imran is sprinting for the elevator, navigating this maze of cubicles while smelling burning flesh, watching these charred puppets twitch and bend unnaturally toward him. I mean, it's pure nightmare fuel.
It really is.
And right before he hits the elevator buttons, the text delivers this incredibly jarring moment of physical contact. A hand, which the source describes as ice cold, clamps onto his shoulder.
This is such a pivotal moment.
It is. He turns around, and it's an elderly man in a burned office uniform. Half of his face is melted off his skull, but the man's isn't screaming.
No, he's totally calm.
Perfectly calm. He looks right at Imran and whispers, "We never left. You came during overtime." And then Imran manages to smash the button, the doors open, and he violently drops back down to the pristine, brightly lit safety of floor 10.
Right, so he escapes the physical space of the quarantine, but the psychological weight of that interaction definitely follows him back to the surface.
So what does this all mean? I really want to dissect that specific phrase the old man uses. You came during overtime. It goes back to what you said earlier about the frequency. Is overtime the actual trigger that unlocks this floor?
It absolutely is. And the old man's demeanor is really the key to understanding the depth of this tragedy. His touch is ice cold, and his voice is calm.
He's not feral.
Exactly. He isn't a feral monster acting on pure instinct. This proves that these workers possess a terrifying level of self-awareness.
Oh, that is so dark.
Right. They are not mindless recordings. They know they are dead. They know they are trapped in this architectural purgatory. And crucially, they recognize what Imran is.
Oh, they see themselves in him.
Yes. They see a young man hustling in the middle of the night, exhausting his own body for a meager paycheck, pushing past his own limits. They recognize him as a fellow late-shift worker.
Wow.
So overtime isn't just a corporate buzzword here. It is the shared lexicon between Imran's reality and their eternal nightmare.
That reframes the entire chase sequence for me. The old man isn't grabbing him to pull him into the fire like a zombie. It implies a kind of horrific cross-generational solidarity.
Yes.
They are warning a fellow worker who has accidentally clocked into their hell.
It is a profound, albeit deeply disturbing manifestation of empathy. The tragedy of the modern gig worker is intersecting directly with the tragedy of the traditional corporate drone.
They're both victims.
Both are victims of a system that values output over survival.
And when Imran stumbles out of that elevator on floor 10, gasping for breath, the aftermath of his escape really cements that connection. Because the explanation he gets from the mundane world proves that the nightmare he just survived is deeply rooted in verified historical fact.
The reality check.
Right. He tries to warn the security guard, the same eerie guy from the lobby, that there are people burning on floor 13, and the guard's reaction just drops the floor out from under the listener.
This is the moment the supernatural horror is just chillingly validated by the banality of corporate bureaucracy.
The guard tells him that officially there is no floor 13 in Orion Tower. But then he leans in and admits the dark truth. In 2004, Synapse Solutions suffered a massive fire. Almost everyone on the shift was lost.
And the company's response was just to cover it up.
Yeah, when Imran demands to know which floor it was, the guard whispers that officially the tragedy happened on floor 12. Management labeled it 12, scrubbed the soot, and moved on. But the survivors, quote, always called it floor 13.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is just a brilliant commentary on how humans process trauma versus how corporations process liability.
That's a great point.
Building management tried to control the narrative. They assigned the fire to a standard floor, remodeled it, and just tried to continue business as usual to keep the property profitable. They tried to erase the event.
But you can't just slap fresh paint over a mass casualty event. It's as if the collective grief of the survivors was so heavy that it physically altered reality.
Exactly.
Like we would literally rather break the mathematical numbering system of a building than confront a tragedy of that scale head on. The survivors just couldn't bear to look at the 12th floor and accept what happened there, so their collective consciousness carved out a 13th floor to contain the horror.
And that is the profound insight of this source document. Trauma leaves a residue that just defies corporate erasure. The survivors' absolute refusal to call it floor 12 created a linguistic and psychological monument to the dead.
By insisting it was floor 13, they kept the memory alive.
They did. But the tragic irony is that in doing so, they also kept the floor itself alive in that quarantined pocket dimension. The haunting is sustained by the refusal to forget, but also by the building's refusal to acknowledge its own guilt.
And the source leaves us with the terrifying reality that the loop is still running. Even today, late-night workers pulling overtime in Orion Tower hear phantom typing echoing through the vents.
So unsettling.
The elevators mysteriously stall between floors, and during power outages, when the modern grid fails, employees look into the reflective glass of the elevators and see another office entirely, filled with burned workers silently staring back at them.
Still waiting.
Still trapped.
Yeah.
Still waiting for the intercom to tell them their shift is over.
They remain tethered because the system that killed them is still perfectly intact. Orion Tower still stands, companies still demand excessive labor, and gig workers like Imran still push themselves to the brink just to survive.
Yeah.
As long as the environment acts as a monument to unyielding productivity, the overtime shift continues.
So bringing this deep dive back to you, the listener, why should you care about Imran's terrifying late-night delivery? Because it is a stark, unavoidable reminder to look closely at the mundane spaces you inhabit every single day.
Absolutely.
This story strips away the modern corporate jargon and forces us to really question the real human cost of the productivity at all costs mindset. It asks us to consider the hidden histories, the covered-up tragedies, and the exploited labor buried beneath fresh paint, open concept floor plans, and slick corporate rebranding.
It is a cautionary tale about what happens when human life is reduced to a metric on a balance sheet. And I really want to leave you with one final, unsettling question to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
If an environment can absorb the trauma of its worst day so deeply that it literally fractures reality to create a permanent, inescapable spatial loop, what invisible, forgotten histories might be playing out right now in the very walls of the building you are sitting in as you listen to this?
Wow. A truly terrifying thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the architecture of tragedy. Keep questioning the systems around you. Keep looking past the freshly painted walls. And remember, the next time you find yourself alone in an office building late at night and that heavy, unnatural silence settles in, maybe